about a key.
That was not on purpose, but I'll take it.
Oh, I know it was not. I'm aware it was not.
I'll take it. I'll take
the
it.
key to Kingdom Hearts is. Burp, burp.
All right, moving on to our next topic at hand. Capcom not in the when it comes to their fighting game division, a few other things recently, they've not been in the greatest of places. This is off of Kotaku.com, written by Ian Walker. Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite won't be on the Capcom Pro Tour. Things just keep getting worse for Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite just days after the game was publicly snubbed by the Evolution Championship Series. Compete as learned that the latest installment of the storied Marvel vs. Capcom franchise won't receive the same support as the sibling Street Fighter V. Capcom Pro Tour was established by the developer in 2014 as a follow-up to the previous integral Capcom Cup. Instead of remaining a varied event, however, Capcom Pro Tour shipped the Capcom Cup on exclusively Street Fighter affair, dropping Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 in the process. Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite launched in September 2017, making it too late to join the Capcom Pro Tour that year instead. A separate event known as Battle of the Stones was created, injecting a few unique gimmicks into the mix for the game's first official championship. Given enough time to become a regular fixture on the grassroots circuit, it seemed likely that Infinite would be invited to join the Capcom Pro Tour in 2018, and that was a broad expectation in the fighting game community. But it didn't happen. To coincide this, they also recently had layoffs as well. Recently, that included not necessarily because of Marvel, but because of their other franchise, Dead Rising, that was not doing too well, or didn't sell as well as expected, which, I could have told you that. But Capcom has not been having a good time as of late when it comes to that. They're selling like bangbusters with Monster Hunter Worlds. Like, that's the game that's saving their asses right now, and that's the game that everybody is playing.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
When it comes to Marvel vs. Capcom, this, and I said this on Twitter, and I'm on two minds of this. One, that this is Capcom dissing himself from the game and basically treating it as the red hair stepchild.
I have a hard time.
Why do you say that?
Because I used to think that back in the day. I used to think that if a developer, if a developer, if you will, was in, like, the game was bad and it seemed like they didn't care or whatever, that they were just trying to get their hands off of it by making a poor game. But I have been corrected many times about that, because there's no way a developer is going to spend that kind of money and not try to put something into the game.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think that at the end of the day... Sorry.
No. It's great, yes.
But that's the problem with doing a live podcast, folks, is you get distracted very easily by the chat.
Yes, that's why you should join us. But go on.
I don't believe for a second that Capcom was intentionally trying to make this game bad to distance themselves from making the game.
I don't think they were intentionally making it bad. I think that everything leading up to Marvel vs. Capcom, they did them to themselves. Everything PR-wise made it made it harder for them to sell the game, to sell people on the game. Not to mention, what they were saying that were angering people, but like the rhetoric about the game, and like it wasn't just from the community, but like other outlets were saying like, yeah, the game doesn't look good. Some of the systems are in place, it doesn't feel right. Alongside,
well, I do agree that once you played the game and you see the game, that it does feel like the budget and the effort was not put forth.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that had anything to do with Capcom wanting to distance themselves. I think that Capcom has a weird way when it comes to their franchise. And if something gets to a point where they feel like maybe it should be retired, they want to retire it, even though fans are still outcrying for it. You'll see this happen in like 10 years with Monster Hunter. I promise you that. And then you'll see a resurgence of Monster Hunter. What I feel like is going to happen now with Marvel vs. Capcom franchise is it'll go dormant for a while,
Yeah, it
for
will
a
be.
hot minute.
Yeah, it will.
After this, it'll go like you won't see any for a hot minute,
Right, right.
and then suddenly it's just like Marvel vs. Capcom 4, and it's amazing. Like it's just a fucking fantastic
Yeah,
game.
and
So
not to mention, like, this is the first time, like, in this time period that we had other companies bring out versus games that looked better or played better than Marvel vs. Capcom. Like, Capcom always had that versus title for the longest time. It's always been their thing. But because in this current generation, this current era, you have games like Dragon Ball Fighters, you got games like Blaze Blue, you got games coming up pretty soon, like the new King of Fighters games coming out this summer. That's based on all the girls from King of Fighters. That's also tag game. So you're getting games that normally wouldn't challenge Capcom's main versus series, but now are. And now people have more of a choice rather than playing just the one that Capcom makes.
also, I feel like working with Marvel right now is a pain in the ass.
Yeah, and again, this another person pointed out to me about this is that it could be also Disney as well, pulling the strings on this only for the sake of this.
I don't think it's directly Disney. I mean, you might be right about that because of merchandise and all that kind of shit, but
I mean,
you look at the lineup. You look at the lineup in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, and it's like all these characters that are in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
yeah, that's one of the things too. Is like they were hamstrung by having these characters in the game. More than likely was influenced because there's movies about them coming out pretty soon, and they can't go too far fetched as far as like what else they can include.
Yeah, imagine being somebody who's never seen the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but you've played Marvel vs. Capcom 3, and Rocket Raccoon has like that Cockney British accent, and then you play this, and he's in this one, you're like, sweet, I get to play him again, but then he sounds like a terrible Bradley Cooper, because arguably he sounds awful in this game. But like, how could you imagine being confused by that? Like, it's very, very clearly Marvel trying to shoehorn their franchises, their major money makers into the game, and, and I imagine for the sake of developers, that's a giant pain in the taint.
Yeah, and not to mention that going back to when I said about Disney is that somebody pointed this out to me, and it could be right, it could be true, it could be not, but like saying Disney has could also play a part. They were quick on EA in regards to Battlefront 2 and how the press was really bad for them, and made them take away the transactions at that moment for the game. So I wouldn't be surprised if Disney was in the same thinking of this game, as far as like, hey, there's some bad press about this game from a lot of outlets and from people within the community and whatnot. Let's not, it's not looking good for this game. Let's distance ourselves away from the game. And it could be a theory that could be also another thing.
They might be distancing themselves now, but not. I don't think they were before controversy, before now Evo. Like,
yeah,
I think like after a little while, you're not going to see any updates for this game.
Yeah, that's true. The one thing that is, and I will say this because I said on Twitter, is that two things. People are still playing the game. And regardless of how many people are, and this is talking more of a competitive side of me, no matter how many people are playing it, whether it be like 5, 10, 20 people, as long as you guys keep playing the game and supporting the scene, like the game will still be alive. It is not quote unquote, not quote unquote dead. But
well, yeah, I've always said like if you want something to stay alive, like you got to put effort into it being alive. So, like they announced the new Mega Man game. And you want more Mega Man, buy Mega Man 11.
Yes, definitely. I will say though, on the other side of things, just compared to the previous years, it is interesting to see the fact like, if you look up the PC Steam numbers for Marvel right now, it is very, very low. Like it's at a point to where like I think it last saw like 50 people were only playing online, maybe less than that on PC version.
I was bored playing the game.
Yeah.
Like, and that's coming from somebody who doesn't play fighters because I'm just not good at them. I have fun playing, like, let's say the story mode on easy or something to that effect. I was bored playing just a little bit of Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite.
Yeah.
With like Injustice 2.
Oh yeah.
That was super fun to play.
Yeah.
Like extremely fun to play. And then of course, Dragon Ball Fighters, like had a blast playing that, even though I cheesed the hell out of it. Like
I think that Capcom is definitely going to take this as a huge learning thing. I mean, I'm glad that that Street Fighter Arcade Edition is actually, they put in the stuff. You know, it took them 2 years, but they finally fixed what needed to be fixed in that game. On top of putting in more modes to have more complete game than when it was at launch. And they're learning that lesson again with Marvel. So I hope that they learn from this lesson and they come back with a much better game. And they come out there and said like, yeah, we need to take our time with our games, especially with Marvel, and just like make sure that they're polished. So they're definitely gonna be taking the time to learn it, but like also they did this to themselves at the same time. And will it be, again, people are gonna play it regardless. But it's definitely Capcom.
And I guarantee you the Evo chat's gonna say, "When's Marvel?"
Well, no, it's gonna be "Where's Marvel?" at this point.
You're probably right about that, but
yeah.
Yeah.
So I forgot to post the stories in the chat. Give me 1 second to do that real quick. So our next story. Speaking of, this might be the most esports-esque podcast we've done in a while. But Evo lineups were announced. Here is the picture as far as like who is in it. It was announced this past Tuesday.